Good morning. Good morning. Where's my co-host? Chad. What the heck? Dude. Okay, so right now it's just me. Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Binge Live. So, Meredith is not here today. Chad is supposed to be here as my co-host, but I don't quite know what happened to him, so I'm assuming he'll be coming back. But today we're going to have an awesome show. I absolutely adore this guest we're going to have today. It is Laura Ware from LINX. Laura, come on, turn on your camera. Join in on the fun. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Just peachy. You got to see all the behind the scenes workings.
Ooh.
It was very exciting.
Orangey, peachy.
So what's going on? Happy Friday.
It is Friday, which is the best day. Way better than Monday, but I'm not sure if you can have like Fridays every single Monday. I don't know how to do that. I'm pushing for the 4-day work week like they have in Europe.
That's what
we need those.
We really do.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's so funny because I've always told people that I feel like we live to work, not work to live.
Yes.
That's kind of the way I see it. So yeah. So it was very funny. I don't know where Chad is. He's like disappeared on us.
Oof.
It's really weird.
There he is.
What's with the games? What's with the games?
I just wanted to make a grand entrance, guys.
Chad's being needy, apparently.
Zoom was hating me. It was not wanting me to be a part of this conversation today, but I persevered.
So Laura, okay, so we're just going to ignore Chad with it for that one. So this is actually like really exciting. So before we got on the air, it's so funny because Laura and I actually met via Zoom like a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Never met in person, but you crack me up. Like seriously, I remember the first time we chat, we were talking about like travel and ragging on people. It was awesome. So you work for LINX's Construction. You're part of a huge project going on at LIX. So tell us a little bit about what you do for them.
Yeah, we're just a small capital investment that LAWA has made. So for those who may not be aware, so the Automated People Mover project is an investment that LAWA has made in the transformation of LAX. It is a train system that includes a 2.25 mile guideway that will start at our West Central Terminal area station and go all the way to the new consolidated rental car facility that is being built by another contractor. And that particular guideway will have 3 stations inside the Central Terminal area. It'll have a station that connects to the new economy parking facility. It has a maintenance and storage facility, which is what I lovingly refer to as this train sleep home. And it will have a connection to LA Metro. So the project in and of itself is really about improving mobility around LAX, which is one of the consistent things I've heard since moving here is it's a challenge to move around LAX. And so hopefully this project will alleviate some of that. And my role with the company is I actually work for Fluor Corporation, which is a large, I believe it's one of the largest publicly held Fortune 200 engineering and construction firms in the globe, around the globe. So I work for Fluor and we're one of the joint venture partners. So we're a joint venture partner for the developer, which is LINX. So LAX automated or LAX integrated express solutions is LINX. And then LINX Constructors is the design build joint venture, and LINX Operators is the operations and maintenance joint venture. And Fluor is a part of all 3 of those joint ventures.
So I'm actually just gonna, I'm sorry, I kind of am hung up on when you say like the sleepy home, because I'm literally picturing like Thomas the train, like you're going in there and like you've got these knit blankets and you're gonna tuck them in at night, like read them bedtime stories. Like that's all I'm picturing in my head right now.
Well, I mean, they do get bath time as they come in. There's a train wash facility. So, you know, when you're preparing your kids for the evening, you're like, oh, you've got to go take a shower. First thing you've got to do before you send the trains to sleep is make sure they've had a shower.
It's like I'm literally picturing this like little kids like play zone where there's like these like, that's all, this is how my mind works. So I appreciate it. Now so this project I just saw the article the other day. It's entering its like final stages, and by final stages, I mean the final quarter. Correct.
So for the guideway construction and stations, yes. So what we're doing right now is we're really focusing up on finishing up that guideway, which is what people see right now over Sepulveda Boulevard, which is our traveling forms. I like to think of them as Pac-Man that are traveling across.
Earlier you said Legos. So
Oh, I mean, it's probably Pac-Man. That's kind of cooler than Legos, right? Or is that a debate in and of itself?
Both cool.
Either way, it's remarkable to watch come across the Sepulveda, like the busiest road in Los Angeles. So,
and now we know that Chad told us earlier that he's honking at all the construction workers.
How do you decide on who gets to be out? Do they draw straws on who works out on the end of that thing every day? I mean,
no, it's a specialized team. So it's a special type of concrete construction that they're doing. So it's a highly specialized team that goes out and constructs the formwork and then goes through and is involved with the pouring of the concrete, and then the forms themselves, I like to call it jumping. Again, back to the Pac-Man. They jump. And so after the concrete is cured and you tension it, you jump. And then you just keep jumping until you meet in the middle. And then one form is disassembled, and that the final form then is moved into the middle piece, and the closure pour, as we call it, is poured.
I love how you describe this as like a normal Friday. Like this is what we just like.
This is my normal Friday.
But I mean, it's like, this is kind of like really intensive engineering that we're talking about here. This isn't just something that like you can do in your backyard on a weekend project with tools from Home Depot or Lowe's, whatever home supply store you prefer. But I mean, you described it as like this sort of like, just it's this, and this. So whatever. No. So how long have you been with Floor?
So I've been with Floor, I believe this is my 12th year. But I actually started with them when I was in high school as an administrative assistant for their safety group. And so awesome. I started a summer in high school, and then I moved on when I was in university. I really had two goals at that point in my life. Like, I was either going to go to the Naval Academy or bust. And then I thought, well, I'm really going to join the Navy. And my mom said, I really think you should have a backup plan, because I don't think enlisting in the Navy is the way that you want to go. And not that there's anything wrong with enlisting, but I had just grown up in a military family. And so she said, if you're going to go, maybe choose an ROTC program at another university. So, that led to me. Yes.
Which university did you go to?
The only USC that matters, which is the University of South Carolina.
Go Gamecocks.
Go
Gamecocks.
Well done.
Yes. So I went to USC and I did my undergrad there in political science. And meanwhile, my freshman and sophomore year, I was working at Floor doing control systems, which is a subset of engineering on polysilicon projects. And so those projects, you were developing the polysilicon that would then be used in solar technology. And I had this brilliant aha moment as a 19-year-old where I said, I hate engineering and construction. I'm never gonna do this ever again. And I left in a blaze of glory of what my 19-year-old brain thought was going on there. So I finished up my undergrad at USC in political science, and I did a research project at the International Criminal Court. I did research projects in northern Uganda with the Lord's Resistance Army and returnees from the LRA. And then I went on to do my master's at the London School of Economics in International Development and Humanitarian Emergencies, which then took me to South Sudan. And I lived there for a while, doing research on intercommunal reconciliation. And so during this whole time, I'm still thinking, man, I'm really glad I got out of engineering and construction because I was doing public sector work that really excited me. It was very challenging and also taught me a lot, and really being kind of that small town farm girl from South Carolina, it broadened my horizons in a way that I could have never imagined. So.
And that's actually funny that you mentioned, because I'm dying to hear how it is to go from the small, as you said, the small town farm girl in South Carolina to Uganda and London School of Economics, like, and then you end up in LA. Like, how was that? And because these are different worlds we're talking about. I mean, my family's from the South as well. I miss me some Waffle House and grits and okra, but that's another story.
Don't hate on the grits though. I like the grits.
No, I said I missed them.
Yeah,
grits and butter.
Fan.
Oh, my grandmother make them, and you had to cook them. You put the egg in it while it's cooking. And, oh yeah, and then you can only use sliced American cheese on it. Don't give me, like, you got to unwrap.
Yeah, don't give me fancy cheese on grits.
No, and a ton of pepper, and I'm like happy as can be. But so I mean, so how is that to go from South Carolina to Uganda, and like, that's pretty freaking awesome.
I think I had just always known from a young age I wanted out. I grew up with chickens and goats, and there's a picture of me in a bonnet holding a chicken and getting my little 4-H prize, like those things have happened.
It's awesome. You could write a book. You really could. Your experiences are so incredible. What was it like working in Africa? Like, tell us, what was the day-to-day like in what you were doing?
It was very humbling. And so I was primarily working in areas where there had been some sort of intense conflict. So in northern Uganda, it was the Lord's Resistance Army. And most people became familiar with that with the Kony 2012 movie that came out. And I'm trying to think of the short version of that particular conflict to give, because a lot of these conflicts are decades in the running. And so with the Lord's Resistance Army, they were conscripting children and women in the Acholi population. And so when I went to northern Uganda, I was living with the Acholi population in Gulu. And I was specifically interested in looking at how these conscripted women and children, when they were coming back, because oftentimes during the course of conflict, while they were conscripted, they were forced to commit really horrific atrocities against their own communities. And so I was looking at how, when they're re-entering their community, how do they reconcile? And when I had gone to the International Criminal Court, I was interested in looking at, are courts of these natures. So the International Criminal Court is there as a permanent court to prosecute, crimes of genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, really the things that there's no communal court that can prosecute. Are they effective at actually being able to render that sort of eye for an eye justice? And I was looking at it in the case of the Sudanese president. And what I found was that from a macro level, it was very hard to actually prosecute a sitting head of state. And so I was wondering, in the absence of having something, even a figurehead that's being prosecuted for these types of crimes, how are communities actually healing? And that's what led me down to the transitional justice route and the research in northern Uganda, because there were certain ceremonies that were cultural ceremonies that had been practiced. The specific one there is called Mato Afut, and it was a way for people to pay reparations as well as bring each other back into community after a wrong or a deep atrocity had occurred. And so I was really interested in that, the human aspect of that, and my desire, and I don't know where this came from necessarily at 14 years old, but for some reason at 14 years old, I decided I want to go to South Sudan. Like, that's a goal of mine.
Wow.
I had been researching about the conflict in Darfur. I learned that the conflict in South Sudan had actually long predated that. It really started at their independence, which was in the 1950s. And I wanted to do that and do some sort of work there. And so when I started down this transitional justice path, while I was still in university, South Sudan gained their independence from Sudan, which then allowed me to travel there, because prior to that, Sudan was on the terrorist watch list because of their involvement with bin Laden. And so United States citizens had not been able to travel to Sudan or to South Sudan. And then I continued to develop a lot of those research interests while I was in grad school, and had Sudanese friends while I was in undergrad, and who had fled South Sudan and were part of the generations of lost boys and lost girls there. And after grad school, I decided to move there and continue researching transitional justice.
Now, sorry, okay, so wow. I'm blown away right now, because at like that age, I was trying to figure out what pop album am I going to buy. Mind you, that's still my day-to-day occurrence. But do you think that like growing up in a military family exposed you to more of these things? Because this is not normal for a 14 or 15-year-old to be thinking about this stuff. Or at least it wasn't in my generation, because I'm realizing how much older I am. Whatever. But do you attribute that to that? And like, how was it when you told your parents, like, oh, I'm going to Sudan now? And are they going, oh, like hell? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so my grandparents, I guess I should clarify, my grandfather was career military.
Okay.
So my mom grew up as an Air Force brat. And then my dad is in the construction industry as well. And so I grew up with my dad really having to move a lot for construction, but we stayed as a family, like we stayed rooted in Greenville, and my dad would travel for work.
Okay.
And so we were rooted on that farm with our goats and our chickens, and the 2 cows that would chase you and the barn cats that would proliferate magically all the time.
Yeah.
And so so we had a busy life taking care of the farm while my dad was traveling for work. And my mom had really made it a priority to make sure that her children were okay with change. And so there was a lot of times that even though we weren't necessarily moving around, I changed schools quite a bit during my formative years, which was, it was kind of to get that same experience that my mom had with changing schools and how do you make new friends? How do you adapt to new experiences? And my mom was a really firm believer about, making sure that we read and making sure that our minds, and we were curious, and she had the opportunity to grow up all over the world. And so I had always just heard all of these stories growing up, and I was like, okay, I've got to get out. Like, I've got to go do something else. I've got to go live.
Yeah.
And I had always found, I'd always found Africa to just be very appealing as a continent. And then obviously, as I started researching and learning more, and especially learning about the diversity of different areas, I mean, a lot of times people think like, oh, Africa, and they homogenize the whole continent but there's very different cultural experiences. There's very different people, and it's an incredible place. Some people are interested in the South American experience and trying to learn as much as they can there. And I had chosen that and had said, like, that's what I want to do. I think I read too many adventure novels.
But kudos to your mom for forcing the exposure on you guys, because that's hard for a parent to do. I mean, I don't have kids, which everybody should just be thankful for. But you're working, you're living on it, you're trying to take care of the goats and running away from the cows, and it's like, and then she's trying to give you, not force you, but expose you to what it means to have to adapt and change. That's huge. And for somebody to think about that, because we've all grown up around people who were never exposed to things. Like, this is just kind of your bubble that you live in. I think that's really awesome. So, that's really cool. I love that. I absolutely love that. Chad?
Yeah. And the first time I forgot to answer the second part of that question about how did my parents feel about it. So, as you can imagine, it's a really foreign experience for any child to come to their parents. And the first time I did it, I was 18 years old. So I went to my parents at 18 and I said, I'm going to go to Darfur this summer. And they just looked at me and said, you're what? You think you're doing what? And how are you going to do this? And with what money? And all of those things, right? And so I postponed. And then it became where it was more difficult for me to go because they were on the terrorist watch list. So that's why I didn't actually make it to South Sudan until after I was finishing up my master's program. But I remember when I was going to northern Uganda, you know, people would come around and they'd say, you know, just be careful or things like that. And I was 20 years old the summer I went and lived in northern Uganda. And I'm just going, I know exactly what I'm doing with my life. And bless my heart, because I did not know exactly what I was doing with my life, but I went into it with all confidence of someone who does think that they know everything in the world, that there is to know about everything. And I had a lot to learn. And then I also, when I was leaving South Sudan and when I came back to Flore, I had left South Sudan, not because there was an intent of, okay, I've wrapped up this experience, it's time to go, but the civil war was restarting in South Sudan and it was untenable for me to stay. And honestly, like, that's the experience where I really learned about the unconditional love of a parent. Like, when you're having, you know, I had to make calculated choices about who got what phone calls, and the priority phone calls needed to be for whoever was going to be able to extract me from what was happening. And so that meant that then that person had someone that they called, and then that person had someone they called and woke up my parents in the middle of the night and said, you know, here's what's happening. We don't have full details, but we're going to make sure that we get her. And
wow.
And that for any parent, you know, having realized, like, obviously what I was going through was scary, but also, like, for a parent, it's really what I've understood, at least not having children of my own, is it's like ripping your heart out of your chest for your child when you know that something like that's happening. So that the experience taught me a lot and actually brought reconciliation in its own ways into my own life, with strained family relationships and stuff like that.
Your poor parents.
Yeah.
Like, seriously,
wow.
You were not thinking about that. And I love the fact that you said the meanest thing you can say in the South, which is "bless my heart." Bless your heart. Like, that is the.
But I was blessing my own heart.
that is just cold. Like, okay, you know you did something wrong. You just know it. So
I was to say, when are you writing a book? I'm serious.
Actually, funny story. That was something I started during COVID. So I took some writing courses and stuff, and I started, and I've pressed pause on it for now because there's some things that are still a little too difficult to unpack from the experience. It would make a good book, but it would also, it's hard to write. It's hard to unpack all of that.
Well, I would imagine some of the stuff you've seen, because as you're talking about, just didn't even go into detail, but I mean, you're literally just dancing around the very even edge of the surface of this thing. I am just trying to imagine, like, how do you turn this off? And I'm always amazed by people who, whether they're working in some sort of a public sector where you're surrounded by such atrocity all the time, how do you turn it off? Because I wouldn't have the mind. I know I couldn't do it. So I'm always impressed by people who can. And
yeah. Well, it was years and years of, quite honestly, therapy. Maybe that's a little more than Binge Live needs to know, but now you know.
We're getting deep today.
Appreciate you sharing.
So where do you, we'll lighten this thing up a bit. So as we start entering the final project, I mean, are you excited to see eventually, once everything is done, your time with LAX, where do you see the next chapter going?
I don't know. That's kind of the fun part about how I've chosen to live my life.
Again, your poor parents.
Yeah, there's never a timeline on Mom and Dad. This is when I'm coming home. No, so when I moved back to South Carolina, and then I moved to New York, and then I moved to LA, I have loved every place that I've lived. which I've been very fortunate for. I should probably say I've loved every place that I've moved. South Carolina and I have a tenuous relationship, but you know, but I have always been able to find community where I've gone, and I've enjoyed that. And when I got to LA, it was the first time though that I really felt really deeply like I could stay here. Like I could stay and build community and build life here and be very happy here. Now, you know, I could also probably do that in Australia if anybody wants to send me to Australia, but or New Zealand or Hawaii, but I've not lived in any of those locations, but I do feel very strongly about that with LA. And so so I'm here. The project itself, because we have the operations and maintenance aspect, it's actually a 30-year term from start of construction through operations and maintenance period. And so I'm really enjoying where I'm at right now, and really trying to make sure that I continue building my community here. And I'd like to stay here. I definitely don't have any plans for, hey, move me to Detroit. So it's a little cold there. I'm sure Detroit's a fine place. It's just cold. I don't deal very well in the cold.
That's fair. That's fair.
But there's all sorts of, you know, it's kind of the same as that military lifestyle working in construction. You know, when one project finishes, towards the end of it, they say, hey, we need you over here now. And that could be 20 minutes down the road. It could be a 2-hour flight, or it could be on a whole new continent. So
see, we grew up with, my dad was in construction. And so we actually physically moved every 3 or 4 years. So it took me a long time to break out of that mental cycle. Like every 3 or 4 years, I would start getting this itch, and I'm like,
yes,
what the heck?
Yes.
And that's a hard thing to break. It's really
hard.
No,
it's very much like I had it where I was moving every 18 months for about.
No, that's excessive.
And so when I moved out here, my goal was, okay, I just want to stay even just in the same apartment for 18 months. And so I managed to hit that. And now we've been in the apartment for 3 years, and I'm starting to get those itch pieces. And I'm like, no, this isn't an itch to move. It might just be an itch for more square footage. Like,
that's fair.
That's fair.
So we're coming up, this has been awesome, but we're coming up onto, I think, what everybody's favorite section is. It's time for a rapid fire round.
Oh, that means I gotta have short answers, right? I talk too much.
You have 3 seconds to answer. 3 seconds. So are we ready? We're gonna do our like low budget drum roll, which is basically just banging on the table. So Laura, are you ready for the rapid fire round?
Okay.
Oh God, oh, she's sweating. I'm loving it. Okay, what is your spirit animal?
Wolf.
You have a tattoo of a wolf, don't you?
No, but I should get one.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Do you have any tattoos?
Many.
Okay. Favorite brunch spot?
My favorite what?
Brunch spot.
Ooh, Good Stuff in Hermosa.
Nice.
Nice. First concert you ever saw?
Alan Jackson and Vince Gill.
Nice.
Okay, God, you're young. Wow. What's your favorite way to relax?
Good book. The beach, just sunshine and a book.
SoCal living. What is your favorite Southern food?
Ooh, shrimp and grits.
Okay. Always back at the grits. Respect. Favorite place you've ever lived? And don't say you loved them all.
London.
Oh, I love that city. Oh God, I love that city. And last question. What is your dream destination?
Ooh. Oh gosh, there's not enough time in 3 seconds for this. So I'll just tell you my next vacation.
Detroit.
Detroit. I'm going to Hawaii for the first time later this year. So I'm very excited about that.
Which island?
We will definitely be going to Oahu and the Big Island. And we're trying to figure out if we should try to get a third island in, or if that would be too much. Like, it just needs to relax.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. Like, you know, when I talk to people and like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm like, no,
How many days are you going for?
We'll be there for 9 nights, 10 days, but 9 nights.
I'd stick with the 2. I mean, you could stay on 1 and have plenty to do, to be honest. So
And
there's
who's
so
gonna
much
be-
to see. There's so much to see.
We have to see the volcano, and the flights are into Honolulu. So I'm like, at least then there will be
Yeah.
2 islands.
Yeah, you picked 2 good ones though. Oahu and the Big Island are fantastic. You'll love it. So
And who's the we? I keep hearing we.
yeah, who is the we?
The we is my boyfriend Seth.
Nice.
And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going to go back really quick. 'Cause like I said, the first time we ever met was on a Zoom call, and you were decorating for Christmas,
Probably.
which I believe you said was your favorite holiday. Oh yeah, don't tell, like seriously random stuff I remember up here. But that was like I remember you were talking like I just want to decorate for Christmas. Like you were like super excited about the holidays.
Yes.
Is that your favorite holiday?
No, April Fool's Day is my favorite holiday because
Oh,
it's also my birthday.
What?
oh,
It's
that's
Awesome.
that's a good way to end this one right there, I think. So Laura, I have to say this was awesome. Like I said, we've never met in person, but I've absolutely adored you every time we've gotten to chat on Zoom. You just crack me the heck up. And she was
Feeling
so
is
nervous
mutual.
before coming on. This is what I love this. She was so nervous. But I hope you had a good time. Chad, thank you so much for filling in.
Absolutely. Sorry I was late. I blame my computer, by the way.
I'm going to make an entrance. That's all it really was. But again, thank you for joining us. Thank you everybody out there who's watching. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye,
Happy
Laura.
Friday. Thank you,
Thanks,
Joel.
Laura.
Thank you, Chad. Bye.
But we're still live.
I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera and we'll
Still
get
live
the
on Facebook.